Welcome to the NBA Countdown Quarantine Edition. I'm Richard Jefferson, in for Maria Taylor, who was working the NFL draft. We're joined by some of the great minds in basketball, including Jay Will. So we're excited for that. Hey, guys, one thing that I wanted to talk about, and I think everyone here, including Jay Will's NCAA championship team, you realize that great teams have conflict. Right. And that was the one thing that stood out to me in The Last Dance, is that this was the greatest team put together, greatest regular season team, but you just saw conflict from top to bottom. Do you think that any of you ever played on a great team that didn't have that type of conflict?
That way every day.
Without a doubt.
Yeah. Paul, your Celtics team famously, and we don't have to dig into the nitty gritty of it, but What was it about? What made you great? But that conflict, did that conflict help your team be great, or do you think it hurt your team in the long run?
I think at the beginning, we had conflict every day in practice. It was always somebody getting into it about the fight, but I think that was the stubbornness of the team. But when you win and you see the success, and if you play on the same team for like a year, 2 years, and you guys are having that success, you start to see a little conflict creep in, because you feel like, as you start winning, people want their roles to be increased even more. So then, people got hidden agendas. You got guys who are on contracts, as we saw with the Last Dance and the Bulls that are coming up, and it started to be a divide with my team, with the OGs, the older players, and the younger players for some reasons, because we won because the older players was taking the lead. And then as years went by, second and third year, it was just like, the young guys felt like they wanted to be on the same level as the OGs and, wanted more. And it caused like kind of a wedge between us a little bit. But, it got to the point we were all hanging out. Then, at some point you saw the young guys kicking it with each other, then the old guys kicking it with each other. And it was like, before we was all together. And that was like probably the beginning of the end.
Yeah. So, Jay Will, like one thing, like you up here, we have a few Final Fours, but we only have one national championship. Was there conflict on your Duke team? Was that a Coach K handled that? Because you had Shane Battier win National Player of the Year. You win National Player of the Year. You had a bunch of guys that are trying to get drafted in the top 10, top 5. Was there any conflict there on the Duke team, even though you guys were winning, or was it just smooth sailing and we know that's a lie?
No, I mean, there was conflict between me and Coach K my last year of school, and that had to be diffused by guys like Dunn and Shane and Jay Rose. You and I had some experiences, even with that younger Bulls team my rookie year, even with Bill Cartwright and some other guys. So I feel like this naturally happens. I did want to swing it back into, speaking of controversy that we saw at The Last Dance, but also with the Draymond and KD stuff, I didn't get a chance to expound upon it the other day. It's just interesting to me because, like, even for UP, right, like, all that stuff between Ray and you guys, it's like you guys discussed that years and years later, right? Like after having time to reflect upon it. Jay, I don't know if you've had any scenarios or like with MJ and Scotty, it's like 20 plus years that we're discussing it. So it is interesting how people navigate that. Does it need to happen right afterwards? Like I didn't hear LeBron complain about Kyrie right afterwards. I mean, he still hasn't really spoken about it. How do you navigate that, and what's the right timing around when you divulge that information is interesting to me overall.
Yeah. Go ahead.
And RJ, the conflict, and Paul was touching on it, and Jay talked about it, really starts to happen because the success, now people want to jockey for position for the credit. Just think about this. Jerry Krause, he discovered basically Scottie Pippen, brought over Tony Kukoc, drafted Horace Grant, gave Phil the job, ran the triangle with Tex Winter. Like, he should be celebrated, except his ego was so big, he wanted it to be about him, and he dismissed the role of the players and the coach. Phil left there and won 5 more championships. Five more.
Wait, one thing that I want to discuss. Everyone is talking about Jerry Krause, and he should be the focus of this. To me, the biggest Reinsdorf.
Exactly.
Reinsdorf to me is the number one because he allowed Jerry Krause to convince him that this was the right move. Right? Jerry Krause can be able to sit back, or Reinsdorf can sit back and say all he wants about, well, you know, they didn't really get along with Jerry. And it was like, well, wait,
you didn't have to convince him.
He got convinced. He ate the apple.
RJ, I'm going to tell you, he didn't have to convince him.
Yes.
I'm going to tell you what happened.
But please.
Those dudes became enterprises in uniform. So Phil, as a 5-time champion, was like the greatest coach and needed to be paid like that. MJ was like the greatest player and needed to be paid like that. Remember, MJ had 2 years where he made 30+ million. Mm-hmm. Everybody else was making like 4 million. And then you sign Scotty to that long-term deal, and then you throw it in his face instead of taking care of him. So all of those dudes were unhappy with the organization because that team didn't want them to be in power. All of the greatest players, except Magic Johnson, didn't get taken care of by that squad. As a Detroit native, I saw Isiah Thomas leave. I returned with Larry Bird to play against Paul Pierce against the Celtics. I saw MJ lead the Bulls. They was trying to navigate to get the guys out because of power. Yeah. It had nothing to do with, the money. They didn't want them to have the power.
Yeah, and you can see, obviously, the cool thing about going back is you see the player empowerment movement beginning. Like that was really and truly the beginning, and we see the result in that. One thing that I want to talk about, though, is now look, I was 11. Jay Will, I don't really know how old you are, but I think.
Why do I feel like every time you tee up a question, you insert a
I'm going to direct something negative at you. Let's just call it is what it is. I haven't seen you. Like my roommates are driving me nuts, my kids. But look, so you're the only person I can give a little mess to. When, in the upcoming episodes, they're talking about the Pistons and Bulls rivalry. Jalen, like you are a Detroit guy. How did you feel about the Pistons walking off after the Bulls eliminated them in 91?
So this is about to be controversial to a Hall of Famer, to a champion. RJ, you catching lobs from J Kidd and balling out for 20 years and winning the ring. This is going to be blasphemous for y'all. You could not tell me that I was not a part of that team and I didn't walk off with them. Okay. My whole life, if you look back at that footage, like I squint and feel like I see myself in it. Because in Detroit, that was our rival. That when people talk about what they love about sports, it's the disdain that players have for each other. It didn't embody itself no more than Detroit playing against the Bulls. And we eliminated them a couple of years. We beat the Celtics, we beat the Lakers, and we beat the Bulls and won back-to-back championships. So by the time that they won, it was like, we off them. Y'all we good. Y'all celebrate. Y'all got MJ, but we out of here. And so we love that. We booed Jordan. We didn't wear MJs. We had the Jordan rules. I rooted against Michael Jordan his whole life. If I didn't play basketball, I wouldn't appreciate his greatness.
Yeah. Hey, Rose, can I ask you guys a question? I'm curious, like, when did this whole handshaking thing come into basketball from the beginning? Like, ultimately, I guess it's shown as a sign of respect, but still, like, I don't see football guys shaking hands across the field. I see the coaches, not football players, actually. They go to their respective locker rooms. So, for me, I grew up by Isiah Thomas.
Wait, Jay, wait. You don't see football players after a game going across and shake hands. Like, what games are you watching?
Jay doesn't watch with their boys. They do it with their boys. Yeah. They don't do it like, it's not like both teams line up and everybody has to shake everybody's hand.
Well, there's 150 players, but quarterbacks typically go pay respect to quarterbacks. Other players.
That's about it. Unless your boys in the other team.
The head coaches go say hello.
Okay, so you've named two people. Other than having your boy, you're not lining up to shake hands. That's all I'm saying. In the league, like, you're supposed to line up and everybody shakes hands. But if you're in a rivalry, I don't think you need to shake people's hands. Like the game, like, guys don't shake hands at the end of a game throughout the regular season unless you're boys. Guys go to their respective locker rooms. I just don't want to lose perspective on that.
No, usually it's just a sign of respect.
After the season is over.
Listen,
I think before, did you shake everybody's hand on everybody's team after you guys won the lost games?
No, just during the postseason. Just during the postseason, Jay. That's why we're going to have you stay over there for a second. And if I could mute you right now, I would.
But you can't mute me, RJ.
Paul, what was you saying? What was you saying about the NFL and the team that you root for, Paul?
As a Patriot fan.
No. Hey, I thought you was a Rams fan.
As a former Patriot fan, I always noticed how all the players would go up and show.
No, listen,
they all show signs of respect for Brady.
And
always, after the game, you always see players going to Brady, asking for his jersey or just sign of respect. That happens all the time in football. Now, listen, with the Pistons, when they did that, I didn't feel a certain way because think about what were the Pistons' nickname? The Bad Boys. They held up to who they are. So, what we look like being the Bad Boys, going over there, hugging and shaking hands. That's not phony. What bad boys do.
That's phony.
Yeah. That's fair. That's fair. And I think history remembers him as the bad boys. I truly believe that. Just look, you don't shake hands. You guys know this, Jalen, Paul, Jay. During game after games, especially playoff games, you don't talk to anybody. You don't go to dinner with your boy if he's on the other team. You don't go to lunch with him. You're not going over and hanging out and playing video games until the series is over. When the series is over, you then go and say, hey, you don't have to say hello to everybody.
No, but look.
Say what's up. Tell us.
In some cases, let me tell you some cases. Like when you're the 8 seed playing against the 1 seed, you know you're gonna get popped. I'm at my boy house. I remember going to my boy house playing against Eric Strickland during the series, and they popping us. And I'm like, we happy just to be in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And we was hanging out during the series, getting mopped.
But you weren't doing that when you were playing against Miami. You weren't doing that when you were playing against Orlando or Cleveland or what? You were all business because you were like, okay, this team, if we ain't bringing it, this team can beat us.
Yeah, I'm just talking about the lower seeds. When you're a lower seed, when you're an 8 seed, and I've been on some 8 seed teams, you we happy to be here, man. What y'all doing tonight? Y'all want to go out?
Let me ask you like this, though. It's okay not to like somebody, right?
Agreed.
So, my thing is, if you don't like somebody or if you are the bad boys, my thing is just stay true to who you are. So I respect Detroit for doing that.
That's absolutely.
But you understand the amount of heat that would be given today. To keep it on the Pistons, we all know that the most important team in the history of the game of basketball was the Dream Team. You had Chuck Daly as a coach, and there was one very famous omission from that team, and it's Isiah Thomas. Do you guys feel that obviously politics got involved because Isiah was a top 8-9 player in the NBA at the time? Do you feel like Isiah should have been on that Dream Team for what it meant to the game of basketball? Jay, I want you to go first. Jalen, I want you to go first as a Detroit guy.
Okay, so this is really controversial for me because I respected Jordan's game, but I rooted against him, and Chicago was our rival. Magic is my childhood idol. He's also from Michigan, and I wanted to be a tall point guard just like him. Isiah played for my hometown team. And I actually played for Larry Bird in the league. And so when this Dream Team thing happened, the controversy was not only that he was left off the team, was that our squad just won the championship and Chuck Daly was the head coach.
Yeah.
So imagine your squad that just won the championship. He gets elected to coach the Dream Team, but they don't take your best player.
These weren't subliminal shots. These were direct shots.
Yes. And remember, there's a finals a couple of years ago when best friends, Magic and Isiah, would kiss each other on the cheek before the game. And that relationship fell out to the point where they weren't friends for things that happened during that couple of year period for 25 years. They just started speaking recently on a sit-down interview within the last, 12 to 24 months. And so it definitely was a snub. And it was one that a lot of people took personal. And it was, there were grudges with MJ, for example, carry forever. what Magic was able to repair. With MJ, carry forever. And I'm telling you, you see Isiah right now, and if one of those people are present, not named Magic, I don't think it's going to be a pleasant greeting.
Paul, what do you thought?
Yeah, that was one of the truest snubs. But there was two players I should have been on that team. One, Isiah, and I remember this like yesterday. It should have been Isiah over John Stockton, I believe. Mm-hmm. And how did Shaq not make the Dream Team 1? I mean, he was the best player, the most dominant player.
It was those Duke politics, man. It was those
Duke. Don't put that on me.
Duke.
Don't put that on me.
Terrible trash politics, man. I'm telling you.
What happens, man?
Oh my gosh! How did Shaq get left off of that? Hey, when you go to Duke, I guess you do get a lot of politics.
I've been trying to tell you, Paul. When you go to Duke, man, they just lay it out for you. It's unfair.
Man, it's not. That's unreal. Those were the two unreal players that I couldn't believe didn't make that team.
Yeah. Jay, what's your thought?
I was just going to talk about it's can only imagine if you're Zeke, regardless of whatever rivalry you have, you don't like somebody. If a guy like Michael Jordan was like, nah, he ain't going to participate. It's not going to happen. He's not coming on my squad. Just like, I know we're 20 plus years removed from it and people understand the power, but like Michael just did what Michael wanted to do. And he earned that right now. I hear you. But it still blows my mind at USA Basketball that somebody couldn't go to Mike and talk about, hey, this happened. That's what I'm saying. Nobody was going to go to Mike.
Well, but let's not just.
So good. It brings back my point, though, RJ. Like, you know, when I heard Paul we were on the first one, Paul was talking about, is it okay we were in a jump, I think, Paul. You were talking about, best players bickering, right? And you were saying, I was like, yeah, but KG and those guys and Ray kind of seemed like those were your peers, right? Like, I mean, you were obviously above them, but like to a degree, but they were your peers. You guys communicate that way. I don't know who was able to communicate with Michael Jordan that way. It was like Michael Jordan was here and everybody else was here. Nobody stepped to Michael.
Nah, not on that team. You telling me if Magic or Bird had said something?
But now understand, we forget about the dynamic with Larry Bird. There was also the dynamic about the statement that was made about Larry Bird and would he just be another player if he wasn't white? Yep. I feel like that was a huge thing when it came to it. So you got to imagine that it's MJ and Scotty don't want him there, right? I'm not going to speak for them, but he wasn't there. So let's just say we're having to play the game of Clue. And then the next person, Larry Bird, probably doesn't want him there. So now you got Michael, Scotty, and Larry that probably don't want you on the squad for things that have gone on. So I just don't want to put blame just on Michael, but you can continue, Jay.
That's fair.
What?
I couldn't hear you. Thank God you just cut out because I feel like you said something else snarky.
No. I would repeat it if I did. I promise you. I promise you. All right, guys. This is a bonus question. We talk about all the players and everything going on. This one's going to be quick. Udonis Haslem just came out and said Wade and Braun are the cheapest players he's ever played with. Who are the cheapest players, you can even say yourself, that you ever played with? I want to start with Jalen.
This disappoints me because one of the worst things you can say about a teammate, besides the fact that they didn't bring it or play hard, is that they cheat. That's the worst thing you can say about a teammate. Never pay for dinners, never pay when we out at the spot. Seriously? The money these guys make? Like, I'm really disappointed. I'm really disappointed. We made sure we took care of the young players in the league, gave them our per diem, made sure we got them suits, made sure they didn't have to spend their bread when we went out. Like, I'm really disappointed in LeBron and Wade. I really am.
Jay, who were your vets and who were the cheapest guys? Because I know Jalen had you.
Yeah, and then you, Richard Jefferson, when I was on the Nets.
Yeah, but you didn't have to worry about anything because I was going out. If you sat at the table with me,
you were going out all the time.
I was going out. You didn't have to worry about me.
I gotta be honest. I got lucky, man. I had Jay Rose and I had you and I had J Kidd and Vince. So
that's it. Paul, who were the vets when you first came in that kind of took care of you, and were they cheap?
When I first came in, we was all young. Antoine was the vet, and he was only a year older than me. But Kenny Anderson was there. Kenny Anderson was there. You know, he always looked
Broadway.
Yeah, but I'm gonna tell you a story about the cheapest player, and this is the story. We had Secret Santa. I know y'all used to probably do Secret Santa in y'all locker room, and I know he was on a rookie contract. But everybody, you know, you pick a name, but the guys was giving computers, you know, Gucci bags for gifts. And then I remember this. I'll never forget it. Leon Poe. He bought Ray Allen the whole season, like a whole season of Sanford and Son. On DVD.
Come on, man. Come on, dog.
It was thoughtful. It was thoughtful.
He re-gifted that. He didn't buy that. Somebody gave that to him.
It was thoughtful. Everybody looked at that like, come on, man. He gave him a whole season of Sanford and Son DVDs. Everybody was cracking up. It was the funniest thing. You look over, Tony Allen got a Gucci bag. Rondo, he got an Apple computer.
Now, I'm like, this isn't like a stunt. I would have to say, and this is my brother, so he's going to my guy, Kerry Kittles. It was a battle between Kerry Kittles and Todd McCullough.
Nova.
Yeah. Todd McCullough. We saw Todd's wife in Charlotte, but we saw his car. And we were like, why is your car here? Todd said, oh, she drove down from Jersey down.
Whoa!
Oh my God.
And so we was like 7-8 hours.
So I'm not gonna say that like it wasn't like maybe she had family or maybe some of that, but they just gave him a lot of heat, right? Todd McCullough.
He want to buy a first class ticket?
I don't know. The Big Dipper. The other one, the other story. So they gave him a lot of heat for a couple of days. I don't know the backstory, but just I remember being a young player and just being like, okay, so always make sure your wife flies down to the trips and not drive anywhere. Okay. And then the second one was Kerry Kittles, because Kerry Kittles, he had turned in his car and he had gotten like a Volkswagen station wagon when he was like, I want to say he had just had his first kid. And all he kept doing when everyone was clowning him, not clowning him in the way, but it's like, Kerry, really, you was driving a Ferrari last year. You have a 3-month-old kid and now you're in a Volkswagen station wagon. No disrespect to Volkswagen. and he was like, man, you don't understand the gas mileage I'm about to get on this, man. Y'all up there paying all that money for gas mileage. And we're just like, Kerry, you're making $9 million. You talking about, you want to brag about an extra 5 miles an hour or 5 miles per gallon you're getting. So those were my two cheapest teammates. But
that was a really bad told story, RJ. The last one.
What? I'm just saying he was. Oh, I'm sorry, Jay. You got a better story? You want to tell me a better story?
No.
Okay. Well, thank you guys. I appreciate you guys joining me. I don't even have a sign off. How do I sign off? All right. For Jalen Rose, Jay Williams, Paul Pierce, I'm Richard Jefferson. This is your quarantine edition of Countdown. I am signing off.
Yes, indeed.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.